Welcome to Keith Knight, Don't Tread on Anyone, and the Libertarian Institute. This is an excerpt from an Agorist primer by Samuel Edward Konkin III in a section titled Value. Human beings act. Why? Ludwig von Mises said it best, to remove felt unease. In reality, man always has reason to feel unease, to feed himself, clothe himself, shelter himself, reproduce, and feed, shelter, and clothe others, amuse himself, and so on. Unease cannot be eliminated. It can, however, be reduced. It can also, unfortunately, be augmented. If you seek to starve yourself or bore yourself, you increase your unease. Some actions you perform achieve negative goals. Some achieve positive ones. Those which remove felt unease are values. If someone else has something that will remove your unease, but taking it will increase theirs, we have a conflict in values. This conflict in values need not arise from direct confrontation. Suppose you and another are offered a scrumptious dessert, and the other is dieting desperately. You value it, the other disvalues it. Value is subjective. This simple insight, made by Karl Menger, teacher of von Mises, revolutionized primitive economics and cured many of the problems plaguing the science since Adam Smith. Had Marx heeded Menger, socialism would have been abandoned. Subjective value leads to individualism. It also explains so powerfully why people trade, and it demolishes theories of exploitation. Before subjective value, Marx could look at the work of Adam Smith, who thought value arose from the amount of labor one put into producing something, and see no productive role for anyone but laborers, concluding that all the others must be parasites. So briefly, Marx saw no value for the people who came up with the idea of what product or service to sell. He didn't see any value in where to set up shop, whether it was Manhattan, Nebraska, Florida, different country. And that wasn't really important. Everywhere is more or less interchangeable. There's no value in finding where to set up. He didn't value the managerial decision of what to produce in what quantity. Should we make one printer, 5,000, 500,000? He didn't see the value in coming up with startup capital. He didn't see the value in investing time that you were not compensated for as the entrepreneur, trying to market your ideas to people or to other investors. No, he didn't see value in where to reinvest money. He didn't see value in taking the time and who to find out to hire. He didn't see value in managers trying to find which people are going to make the business flourish and which are going to screw it up. He didn't see any value in the middle of an operation deciding how much of the profits should be reinvested, how they should be reinvested, in what products, at what time, for what demographic. Just absolutely ridiculous. Konkin continues, there are parasites in our system, economics tells us, and we shall use our new understanding to ferret them out in the next chapter. What he's referring to is people who do not engage in original appropriation or homesteading, people who don't engage in voluntary contractual agreements, people who basically use the ideas of violence instead of voluntarism to achieve their ends. If we're engaged in voluntary interaction, we only do so because trading would, presumably remove felt unease for both parties. If we're not engaged in voluntarism and we're engaged in violence and coercion, one party is benefiting not in accordance with another, but at the expense of another. So the parasites are people who use violence instead of voluntarism. Of course, government, by definition, is the attempt to use institutionalized violence to achieve your ends instead of the voluntary means, which all the rest of us have to abide by. Finally, when people trade, they are acting to remove felt unease in both directions. You may give up a smaller value for a larger, but never the other way around voluntarily. If you're willing to let your brother work for you and you pay him more than he's worth, you know that this means to you he's worth extra because he's my brother. You've still gained a greater value. If values were not subjective, why would anyone trade? We would all value things equally and be content with what we had. Well, not entirely. We could also want more of a value.